Hello, good afternoon. You've tuned into your stocks on CNBC-TV18. I'm Vinny Motiwala in the Mumbai News Studio. Markets surely are doing quite well, and we're seeing that market is holding on to gains. Nifty trading at the day's highest point as of now. 2% gain that we're seeing coming in for the Nifty 50. 466 points up is what the Nifty is trading at. Sensex 2 is trading comfortably higher in trade around 2% mark as well. Let's look at what the median small cap is doing, because that was a bit of an underperformance versus the benchmark indices. They too are trading in the green, but Nifty mid cap is holding on to gains of almost 1%. Small cap too similarly is holding on to gains of around 1% as well. Nifty Bank, let's look at where that is standing at. Standing on the positive side, Nifty Bank as well, holding on to gains of almost 1.6% in trade. Nifty Media, I want to see that chart as well, because that was the only one which was trading a bit with a negative bias. Want to check if that has also recovered and come back on the positive territory. Let's watch out for Nifty Media if we do have that, because that was the only one which was trading in the red. A lot of individual movers that we are seeing in trade today as well. Bajaj Industries on the back of news flow, MGL that's in focus on the back of news flow as well, and a lot of movers that we're seeing coming in on the Nifty 50 front. ICICI Bank, SBI, all of them managing to see very strong gains. But that's how the market setup is looking like as of now. But this is a show where we will be solving all your stock related queries today, and to solve all those queries we have our experts joining in with us. We have Shahina Mukadam who's joining in with us, as well as Vaishali Parekh joining in with us from Prabhudas Lilladher. Thank you so much for joining in with us this afternoon, ladies. And you know, Vaishali, I'm going to start with you, because today, look at that recovery and jump that we've seen in the market, right? Let's talk about the market first. Nifty, what are we looking at over there? How is it panning up, shaping up, this recovery that we're seeing today? Do you think that will be something that will be sustainable, given that we've seen the fall coming in for the Nifty in the past few days?
Very good afternoon, first of all of you. And yes, this is a much needed recovery that we were looking forward to. So talking about Nifty, we saw a good corrective move, really 10.5 to 11% of a corrective move right from its high. And 23,250 was a very prominent support, which we witnessed yesterday. We were expecting a bounce up to 23,500, and well, we witnessed that too. Now I think it's likely to go towards 24,000. So still, I would just call it as a bounce back. But yes, there are many stocks which have come to crucial support levels, and I think maybe in times to come, this should act as a strong support, and we would see a gradual up move coming from here on. Likewise, if we talk about Bank Nifty, well, it held on to the 200-day moving average, 49,800, 50,000. And from there also, we've seen 1,000-point up move coming in. I guess that should also be a good support levels. So wait and watch, and simultaneously, most of the sectors have corrected. So we are seeing participation coming from almost all sectors.
Okay, participation coming in, hoping that this actually holds on. That's the view on the market. But let's get started with the first query for today. We have Rajesh, who's writing to us from New Delhi. He's holding 8,000 shares of Vodafone Idea at an average price of ₹9 per share. So obviously he's making a loss right now. The stock is trading at around 6.6 rupees per share. He wants to know, for the long-term prospect, is this a stock that one should continue to hold on to? Shaina, what's your view on Vodafone Idea? And good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Vodafone, they reported, I would say, a very mixed set of numbers. Second quarter, we saw revenue was higher because tariffs were higher. So they were able to improve revenues. But losses, they continue to make huge losses, slightly lower compared to previous quarter. But at the same time, the losses are huge. So to that extent, I think, it becomes a bit risky to hold it despite the stock having fallen such a lot, because you see the competition intensity is also increasing. We are hearing reports of BSNL coming in a bigger way, and they continue to lose, Vodafone continues to lose, its clients. So to that extent, I think it makes a risky hold. So I would suggest a switch, book the losses.
Switch, book the losses. That's the word on coming in from China on Vodafone. Vaishali, what's your view on Vodafone? Similar to that what China is mentioning?
I definitely agree, because the trend is absolutely down, making new lows. So definitely a miss.
Okay, Trend is down, better to switch. That's the word coming in from both our experts on Vodafone Idea. Let's move on, talk about the next stock that we have today. And the query is coming in from Prakash, who's writing to us from Karnataka. Holding 1,100 shares of Ola Electric, bought at an average price of 90 rupees per share. Currently making a loss in this one. Stock is trading at 68.71 rupees per share. Wants to know whether you should continue to hold or maybe look to sell. Shahina, what's your view on Ola Electric, right? That's been in the news for a while, continuously since its listing as well. What are we watching out for in terms of Ola Electric?
Well, investors have not made any money on the stock, post IPO. It's lower than the IPO price. If you see the numbers, the deliveries in the last quarter were good. Having said that, they made a huge loss in that last quarter. Now, this is, in my view, putting a strain on the balance sheet. So, and also because of these sort of losses, despite the management coming out and saying that they have streamlined their customer complaints and they are, implementing their repairs within a very short period of time. Despite all that, I think there is a bit of an overhang of negative sentiment on the stock. So if you're a very long-term investor, I think you can hold, but I would classify it as a very risky holding. And because I see a time correction rather than a price correction from these levels. Having said that, I think in terms of the business that they are talking about going forward, the market share about 39% in the two-wheeler EV. So they've got everything going. They've got new products that are coming out. They're coming out. They're planning. They're doing R&D on engines. So to that extent, there's a lot of work going in. But I think this will put a pressure on the balance sheet and on the profitability. So if you're a very long-term investor, you're looking at a concept stock, hold. Otherwise, you could switch.
Okay, if a very long-term investor, then hold. Otherwise, you can look to switch. Vaishali, I know you don't have enough charts or technicals, in terms to understand the stock better. But any view on Ola?
I would say all I can say, of course, I don't have much of a data, but it's in deep oversold. So if you are holding on, at least hold for a bounce back up to 90. From there on, we can have a relook because once the stock moves above 90, we can say that yes, there is a scope of further up move going perhaps towards 120. So not in a hurry, I would say hold on.
Okay, not in a hurry, then hold on. That's the word coming in for Ola. But let's move on to the next query. And this one is an interesting stock, Paytm, because that's seen a very good run up. 17% in the last 5 days, last 1 month, 31% uptick that we're seeing. Now, Divya is writing to us from Kerala, and he's holding 460 shares of Paytm at a price of 690 rupees per share. Wants to know whether, in terms of long term, this is a good stock to continue to hold on to. After that correction, we've seen that run up coming in for Paytm. Shahina, Paytm a good one to hold on to for the long term?
I would say so. And we are seeing a lot of momentum come back into the stock. I mean, after all the negative news that we had, last year, things look like they're turning around. They reported very good Q2 numbers. 2 weeks back, they got approval again to onboard customers. Of course, they had to tie up with banks, which they did. They've tied up with a couple of banks. So to that extent, I think that positive will be there going forward. Also, the sale of the ticketing business is now behind them. And that money that they have raised, which was a good sale price, that money will now be utilized to grow the existing business, expand. So all these things coming together, I think it could be a hold.
Okay, a good one to hold on to over there. Shahina, that was Shahina's view on Paytm. But Vaishali, what's your view? Because last 6 months, when you're looking at the charts, around 150% return, right? At one point of time, no one was expecting Paytm to see such a good run up. But slowly, steadily picked up pace, 150% in 6 months. Still a good time to continue to hold on to, or maybe book out profits?
So, well, depending on what your time horizon is and to what level of a trader are you. So, as a disclaimer, we have recommended the stock right from 600 levels. And seeing the stock going just one way higher, I would say technically 920 is the near-term resistance. So if you're a short-term trader, do consider these levels to book profit and wait and watch. But if you're wanting to hold for a longer-term perspective, I think once the stock moves above 920 and sustains, we are ready for our next target of 1150 to 1200. These are the levels for the next projected target. So that is how I would look at the stock.
Okay. Let's move on to the next query. Naresh is writing to us from Hyderabad. He wants to know if he can buy Reliance shares at the current level. Reliance is trading at 1,256 rupees per share. Vaishali, your view on Reliance? Good time to buy this one?
I would say accumulate. So because we are still not sure, that we're assuming that yes, market is showing signs of bottoming out. But if there was some more selling coming in and if Nifty was to drag lower, then Reliance, I think the prominent support lies at 1180. And we saw yesterday it did make a low of around 1227 or so. So we are pretty much close to the support levels. I would say accumulate at every dip from here on.
Okay. And China, your view on Reliance?
I would say you can start buying now. A couple of reasons. One is, of course, Geo is doing very well, expected to grow in the longer term by about 20%. Another thing is that they are talking of listing it next year. So that's a positive. Retail business is stable, margins are stable. You have OTC that was O2C, which was actually a drag in the last quarter, and with GRM stabilizing, I think that could again come back. And what I do believe is that if there is an issue on the global political space or some sort of tensions, I think oil prices will go up, and that could actually benefit Reliance. So to that extent, I think it is doing well on all parameters. Valuations, in my view, are not expensive. If you look at price to book, it's about 2 times. You look at P, it's about 25 times, which is not expensive. So I would believe that one can start buying, and if it dips further, you can add.
Okay. That's a view on Reliance, surely buzzing away in trade today, and Nifty too is about the 23,800 mark as of now. So interesting to keep that on your radar as well. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere, because after the break, we'll still be taking more of your stock-related queries. Welcome back. You've tuned into Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18, and we still have our experts with who are Shahina Mukadam as well as Vaishali Parekh to solve all your stock-related queries. Let's move on to the next one, and this query is on Deepak Nitrite. Now, Kishore is writing to us from Hyderabad, holding 643 shares of Deepak Nitrite. Bought at a price of rupees 3,000 per share, currently making a loss because the stock is trading at 2,680 rupees. Wants to know whether he should continue to hold or maybe just book out his losses from this. Shahina, what's your view on the fundamentals for Deepak Nitrite?
I would suggest he should book his losses because valuations are pretty expensive. If you see on a PE basis, let's take PE basis, it's 40 times, and the growth estimate in terms of earnings for the next 2 years is about 10%. What we saw in the second quarter, in fact, first full half, is that the numbers are stagnant in terms of revenue, profitability. On a consolidated basis, it's more or less flat. China, we have certain problems. Those things have not settled as of now. And now Europe also, we are seeing issues in terms of pickup. So phenols, actually, while they did well, their intermediates, Deepak Nitrates, had issues in the first half. I think these issues likely to continue, and any because of expensive valuations, any underperformance sees the price come down. Most of the analysts after the second quarter have actually cut their earnings estimates for the next 2 years. So in such a such a scenario, I would suggest it's better to either book your loss, switch.
Okay, book your loss or switch in such a scenario. That's on the fundamentals. But on the technicals, Vaishali, Deepak Nitrite, because it's not done anything in the last 6 months, also YTD performance, when you look at that, does it play out to be an exciting bet to continue to hold on to and maybe an up move on the technical level?
So if I'm seeing the long-term trend, it is still intact. 2,500 was the crucial support, and that's what we have seen, and the stock is attempting to give a bounce. So I would say at least wait for a resistance of 3,000 levels. This can bounce up to 3,000. At those levels, one can see, if you see resistance, please exit the stock. Else, if it sustains above that, we can expect this to go towards 3,200. So 2,500 would act as a stop loss, and I would expect a bounce coming to 3,000. So that's my view.
Okay. That's a view on Deepak Nitrite on the technicals as well. Let's move on to the next query that we have. Priyanka is writing to us from Tamil Nadu, holding 800 shares of IndusInd Bank, bought at a price of 1,350 rupees per share. Wants to know, whether she should book out her losses or continue to stay invested in this one. Vaishali, let me come to you first for this one. IndusInd Bank.
So I guess yesterday what we saw was quite a significant low that we witnessed, and right now we are seeing a bounce. I think at this level, no hurry to exit. If one needs to buy, this is a good level. But of course, my preference would lie more on the frontline banking stocks as compared to IndusInd. But if holding, continue holding now.
Okay, continue holding. That's on the technicals. Fundamentals, Shahina, what's the word on this one? Do you think IndusInd Bank someone should continue to hold this, the viewer, or they could maybe switch to someone, sell and switch to some other bank, private bank?
Yeah, I think you can switch, in my view, to some other private sector bank, larger banks, even private sector in its similar size. Federal Bank makes a better switch. Larger banks, of course, private sector look good at current levels. See, basically, the best thing about the stock as of now, in my view, is the valuations. It's now, after the big price fall that it saw, is about just 1.3 times book, which in my view is not expensive for the size of IndusInd Bank. Having said that, I think everything is deteriorating. You have the asset quality deteriorate, which is likely to continue on for this current next couple of quarters. The growth in terms of loan book that actually was expected to be more than 15%, 15 to 17%. Actually, we saw the last quarter came to about 13%. So there is a slowdown. The asset quality, as I mentioned, is deteriorating. So I would say that it is better to switch to some other bank which is performing, giving better numbers. While I don't see any major price correction from here, I see time-wise correction going forward over the next 6 months. So I would say a switch.
Okay, a switch coming in as a word from Shahina for IndusInd Bank. Let's move on to the next query. Suresh is writing to us from Chennai, holding 500 shares of Bajaj Electricals at a price of 238 rupees per share. Currently, Bajaj Electricals trading at 751, so they're making a good amount of profit here. Wants to know the future prospect of his investment, and obviously, should they continue to hold this? How is it looking like for the long term, Shahina?
After that huge fall that we saw in the stock, of course, on back of very poor numbers, we are seeing some stability, I think, in terms of valuations, in terms of profitability going forward. Balance sheet is quite strong. So I would say current levels you can continue to hold, keep a watch, but hold as of now.
Okay, keep a watch, but you can hold as of now. That's the word on the fundamentals and technicals. Vaishali, how is Bajaj Electricals looking like?
It's an absolute downward trend, but only consolation is that on a weekly chart, 750 was the previous low. From there, it had bounced. So if 750 levels on closing basis, if we see a fall further on, then I would say there could be some more corrective move. Then I would ask to exit.
Okay, that's the word coming in on the technicals as well for Bajaj Electricals. Let's move on and talk about the next query. We have Lokesh, who's writing to us from Mumbai, holding 80 shares of Sula Vineyards at a price of 532 rupees per share. Wants to know whether to hold or exit at current levels. Bought at 532 and obviously currently making a loss. 395 is what the stock price is at. Last 6 months, a sharp fall that we've coming in. Vaishali, what is it looking like for Sula Vineyards? Should the viewer exit?
I guess wait for a bounce, because again, deep correction taken place. I think the stock had witnessed a high at around 600 odd, and now it's at 395. Deep oversold, so I think this can give a bounce. So better to exit at a better price of around 450 levels. That could at least reduce the loss.
Okay, that was the last query for today. So thank you so much, Vaishali, as well as Shahina, for joining in with us and solving all the viewer-related doubts and queries on stocks. But quick look at the market, because that's not stopping its up move that we're seeing coming in. And as of now, all Nifty stocks are trading in the green. Look at the Nifty, 2.25% uptick there, 23,878, so 23,900 just around that corner. That's going to be interesting to watch out for. Top drags, top pullers coming in. So we have top pullers that are there: Reliance, ICICI Bank, SBI, Infosys among those names. So yes, surely pulling up the market. Reliance is holding on to good gains. But yes, that's the end of this edition of Your Stocks on CNBC TV18. Thank you so much for tuning in. And don't go anywhere because, we will be taking you all through the next 1 hour of trade as well. Do not forget, you can always write to us also in terms of your queries on the email ID that will be flashing on your screens.